The great hall of the Galactic Senate stretched out like a vast ocean of alien forms. 847 different species filled the towering seats that rose in perfect circles around the central platform. Some breathed oxygen like humans, others required special atmosphere suits. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few existed as pure energy contained in crystal shells. But today they all shared one common purpose. They wanted Earth gone. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone on the platform at the center of it all. Her simple black suit looked plain compared to the colorful robes and exotic clothing of the alien delegates around her. She was just one human among billions of alien beings, but she carried the weight of her entire species on her shoulders. The Zephyrian Chancellor rose from his golden throne. His tall, thin body swayed like a tree in the wind as his forearms gestured dramatically. His voice echoed through the hall without any need for speakers. The Zephyrians could project their thoughts directly into the minds of others. Fellow beings of the galaxy, the Chancellor began, we gather today to decide the fate of one species among us. The humans of Earth have been part of our galactic Commonwealth for 300 years. But in that time, they have shown us who they truly are. Sarah felt the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon her. She had expected this day would come. The signs had been building for months. Trade disputes, cultural misunderstandings, fear. Let us review the evidence, the Chancellor continued. He waved one of his four hands and massive screens appeared in the air above the hall. Images flashed across them, pictures from Earth's history, wars, battles, destruction. Look at their past, the Chancellor said. Before they reached the stars, humans spent thousands of years killing each other. They fought over land, over resources, over ideas. They created weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. This is not the behavior of a civilized species. Murmurs rippled through the alien delegates. Sarah had heard these arguments before. Yes, humanity had a violent past, but they had grown beyond that. Hadn't 3 centuries of peaceful cooperation proven that? The screens changed to show more recent events. Human soldiers fighting in border conflicts with alien pirates. Human colonists refusing to follow certain galactic laws. Human scientists pushing boundaries that made other species uncomfortable. Even now, the Chancellor said, they refuse to accept proper order. They question our rules. They act without permission from the proper authorities. They are too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to remain among civilized beings. A delegate from the Andromedan Collective stood up. Her blue skin shimmered as she spoke through her translation device. The humans saved my homeworld from the plague of 2387. Their medical knowledge and quick action prevented billions of deaths. And we are grateful, the Chancellor replied smoothly. But good deeds do not erase a fundamental nature. A predator may help other animals, but it remains a predator. Sarah wanted to speak, to defend her people, but she knew it would not matter. This was not really about evidence or arguments. This was about fear. The other species had always been uncomfortable with humanity's rapid advancement, their tendency to find new solutions to old problems, their refusal to simply accept the way things had always been done. More delegates stood to speak. Most repeated the same concerns. Humans were too warlike, too independent, too willing to break rules when they thought they had a better way. A few species defended humanity, but their voices were quickly drowned out by the majority. The debate continued for hours. Sarah listened to it all, her face calm and expressionless. Inside, her heart was breaking. She had spent her entire career building bridges between humanity and the galaxy. She had believed that understanding and cooperation could overcome any difference. She had been wrong. Finally, the Chancellor called for the vote. The process was simple but formal. Each species would cast their decision into the galactic network. Green for allowing Earth to remain in the Commonwealth, red for banishment. The results appeared on the great screens for all to see. Species after species cast their votes. Red, red, red. The pattern was overwhelming. A few green votes appeared, but they were lost in the sea of red. When the final tally appeared, Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. 731 species voted for banishment. Only 24 voted to let Earth remain. 92 abstained from voting at all. The vote is complete, the Chancellor announced. By the authority of the Galactic Commonwealth, the species known as humanity is hereby banished from our civilization. They have one galactic standard cycle to remove all human presence from Commonwealth space. This decision is final. The hall erupted in a mixture of cheers and uncomfortable silence. Some species clearly celebrated the result. Others looked uncertain, as if they were not sure they had made the right choice. Sarah stood quietly for a long moment, letting the noise wash over her. Then she stepped forward to the communication platform. The hall gradually fell silent, waiting to hear humanity's response. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice clear and steady. "We understand your decision. We may not agree with it, but we respect the democratic process of the Commonwealth." She paused, touching the small communication device hidden in her ear. A message had just arrived from Earth. 3 simple words that changed everything. "We will comply with your request," Sarah continued. "All human presence will be removed from Commonwealth space within the specified time. We will not trouble you again." Many of the aliens seemed surprised by her calm acceptance. They had expected anger, protests, maybe even threats. Instead, they got quiet dignity. "However," Sarah said, "I hope you understand what you are truly choosing today. For 300 years, humanity has been part of this galactic community. We have shared our knowledge, our resources, our friendship. We have built together, learned together, grown together." She looked around the hall, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. "You are choosing to end that partnership. That is your right. But partnerships once broken are not easily rebuilt. We wish you well in your future endeavors. Perhaps someday, when circumstances are different, we might meet again as friends." Sarah bowed formally to the assembly, a gesture of respect that many alien cultures shared. Then she turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet hall. As she reached the doors, the Chancellor called out, "Ambassador Chen, what will humanity do now?" Sarah paused and looked back. For just a moment, her carefully controlled expression showed something else. Not anger or sadness, but something that made several alien delegates suddenly feel uneasy. "We will adapt, Chancellor," she said quietly. "Humans always do." Then she was gone, leaving behind 847 alien species who thought they had just solved a problem. They did not realize they had just created a much bigger one. In the silence that followed, a few of the delegates who had voted to keep humanity began to wonder if they had just made a terrible mistake. But the vote was cast, and there was no going back. The galaxy would soon learn what it meant to live without humanity. They would learn that some partnerships are more important than they appear, and they would learn that sometimes the greatest danger comes not from your enemies, but from losing your friends. But that lesson would come later. For now, the Commonwealth celebrated what they thought was a victory. They had no idea what was already beginning. The message reached every human settlement in the galaxy within hours of the vote. From the mining colonies on the edge of Andromedan space to the research stations orbiting distant quasars, every human received the same coded transmission. Most aliens would have seen it as random noise, but every human understood its meaning perfectly. Protocol 7 was active. Dr. Marcus Webb was working late in his laboratory on Kepler Station when the message arrived. He had spent the last 15 years developing faster-than-light engine designs for the Commonwealth. His work had revolutionized space travel, making it possible for alien species to cross the galaxy in weeks instead of centuries. Marcus looked at the message for a long moment, then quietly began typing commands into his computer. Within minutes, every schematic, every equation, every test result related to his FTL research began disappearing from the station's databases. The work of 15 years vanished as if it had never existed. He was not destroying the research. He was simply taking it home. On the agricultural world of New Geneva, Dr. Elena Vasquez received the same message while reviewing crop reports. She had developed the mathematical frameworks that made stable wormhole generation possible. Her theories had opened up previously unreachable parts of the galaxy, allowing dozens of species to establish new colonies and trade routes. Elena's fingers moved quickly across her control panel. The quantum computers that managed wormhole stability across 17 star systems suddenly found themselves missing critical programming modules. The wormholes did not collapse. That would have stranded millions of beings, but they became unstable, unreliable, dangerous to use. The mathematical proofs that explained how to fix them existed in only one place now: Elena's personal files, which were already being transmitted back to Earth. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human engineers quietly extracted their contributions from alien technology. Human scientists deleted their research from shared databases. Human programmers removed the hidden subroutines they had written to make alien systems work better. Though aliens did not notice at first. The changes were subtle, designed to look like normal system degradation rather than deliberate sabotage. But as days passed, problems began to appear. On the trading world of Centaurus Prime, the automated cargo systems that managed interstellar commerce began experiencing random failures. Ships found themselves stuck in docking bays as loading systems refused to respond properly. What should have taken hours began taking days. The Centaurian Port Authority called in their best technicians, but no one could find the source of the problems. The systems appeared to be working normally, but somehow, they had become slow, inefficient, unreliable. It was as if some invisible intelligence that had been guiding them was simply gone, because it was. The quantum processing matrices that powered galactic communications networks started developing strange glitches. Messages between different species became garbled, delayed, sometimes lost entirely. The universal translation protocols that had allowed smooth communication for centuries began producing increasingly bizarre results. A simple greeting in Andromedan came out as a declaration of war in Zephyrian. A trade agreement written in Centauri was translated into what appeared to be a recipe for toxic soup in Terran Standard. Diplomatic communications ground to a halt as species struggled to understand each other. The Galactic Senate called emergency sessions to address the growing crisis. Chancellor Zeftar stood before a half-empty hall. Many delegates had left early when they realized their translation devices were not working properly. These system failures are clearly the result of human sabotage, he declared, his mental voice tight with anger. They are violating the terms of their banishment by attacking our infrastructure. But Ambassador Kethvar of the Centauri Collective, one of the species that had voted in humanity's favor, stood to respond. With respect, Chancellor, my technical teams have found no evidence of sabotage. The systems are simply missing components. Components that were apparently human designed from the beginning. The Chancellor's forearms gestured dismissively. Impossible. These systems were developed by our greatest minds over centuries of research. Were they? Kethvar asked quietly. Or were they developed by our greatest minds working alongside human researchers who contributed more than we realized? On Earth, Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the United Earth government, watching status reports stream in from across the galaxy. The evacuation was proceeding faster than anyone had expected. Human transport ships appeared at every human settlement, colony, and outpost with incredible efficiency. But these were not the same ships the aliens remembered. The vessels that arrived to collect human populations were larger, more advanced, clearly built with technology that surpassed anything in the Commonwealth's databases. How long until complete withdrawal? Sarah asked. Admiral Torres, head of Earth's Defense Forces, consulted his displays. All personnel will be evacuated within 3 weeks. All equipment and infrastructure will be extracted or neutralized within 4 weeks. The aliens will find no trace of human presence in their space. And the Iron Curtain? Deployment begins as soon as the last civilian transport clears Commonwealth space. Any alien vessel attempting to approach Earth-controlled systems will find their technology unresponsive. Sarah nodded. The Iron Curtain was humanity's most carefully guarded secret. It was not a weapon in any traditional sense. It was simply a field that made certain technologies stop working. Alien ships entering the field would find their weapons offline, their engines unresponsive, their life support systems running on minimum power. They would not be harmed, but they would be helpless until they retreated. The field was based on principles of physics that humanity had discovered decades ago but had never shared with the Commonwealth. There were many such discoveries in human archives, advances that could have revolutionized galactic civilization but had been kept secret for security reasons. Reports continued to arrive from the evacuation sites. On the research world of Proxima, Serfin human scientists had spent decades developing new medical treatments in partnership with alien researchers. As the humans prepared to leave, their alien colleagues discovered that half of their medical databases had somehow become corrupted beyond repair. The treatments that had saved billions of alien lives over the past 50 years were simply gone. The humans who had developed them were taking their knowledge home. On the industrial world of Tau Ceti, massive terraforming installations that had been running smoothly for over a century suddenly began experiencing critical failures. The atmospheric processors that maintained breathable air for 3 different alien species started producing dangerous chemical combinations. Panic spread as the alien colonists realized their world was becoming uninhabitable. Emergency evacuation. Procedures began, but there were not enough ships to move everyone quickly. Then the human evacuation fleet arrived. Captain Morrison of the transport ship New Horizon opened a communication channel to the Tau Ceti Emergency Command Center. "This is Captain Morrison. We're here to collect our people, but we've noticed you're having some environmental problems. We have spare capacity on our ships if you need emergency evacuation assistance." The alien administrator, a Rigelian named Vorthak, was too desperate to refuse. "Please, Captain, we have 3 million civilians who need immediate evacuation. Our own ships cannot handle that many people." "Understood. We'll take them to safety. No charge." As human ships loaded terrified alien civilians alongside human evacuees, Vorthak could not help but notice how advanced the human vessels were. Their life support systems were more efficient than anything in the Commonwealth. Their engines were completely silent. Their hulls seemed to be made of materials that his sensors could not properly identify. "Captain Morrison," he called out, over the communication channel. "Your ships, they're more advanced than anything in our databases." There was a pause before Morrison replied. "We've been working on some improvements, nothing too fancy." But Vorthak's technical training told him otherwise. These ships represented technology that was decades, maybe centuries ahead of anything the Commonwealth possessed. How long had humanity been hiding their true capabilities? As the last human transport left Commonwealth space, carrying both human evacuees and grateful alien refugees, the galaxy began to understand that something fundamental had changed. The humans were not just leaving. They were taking with them the invisible foundation that had supported galactic civilization for 3 centuries. The aliens had voted to banish humanity, expecting to continue their lives without any significant disruption. Instead, they were discovering that humanity had been far more integral to their society than anyone had realized, and this was just the beginning. The real surprise was still to come. 6 months after the vote, the Galactic Commonwealth was falling apart. Chancellor Zeftar stood in his private office, staring at reports that painted an increasingly desperate picture. Trade between star systems had slowed to a crawl. The sophisticated logistics programs that had managed supply chains across thousands of worlds were producing chaos instead of order. Ships carried full loads of goods to worlds that did not need them, while planets with urgent shortages waited months for basic supplies. The Chancellor's forearms trembled with frustration as he read the latest update from the Ministry of Commerce. Cargo delivery efficiency down 73%. Transport scheduling systems unreliable. Economic losses estimated at 4 trillion credits per month. His assistant, a nervous Altarian named Quexlow, entered with yet another stack of urgent messages. "Chancellor, we're receiving emergency requests from 47 worlds. Their terraforming systems are failing. The Kepler Mining Collective reports that their automated extraction operations have completely shut down. And sir, the translation errors are getting worse. Just yesterday, A trade negotiation between the Vegan Republic and the Tau Ceti Federation had collapsed when a proposal for peaceful cooperation was translated as hostile takeover. 3 border conflicts had started because of communication failures in the past month alone. The Chancellor's mental voice carried a bitter edge. Have our technicians found any solutions? Quexelo's tentacles writhed nervously. No, sir. They say the problems are too complex. The systems seem to be missing fundamental components that were integrated so deeply into the original designs that removing them caused everything to become unstable. And where did these components come from? The technical reports suggest human origin, sir. The Chancellor swept his arms across his desk, sending documents flying. 3 centuries of partnership with humanity, and somehow they had become dependent on human innovations without even realizing it. How had this happened? Meanwhile, at the edge of what had once been human space, something impossible was taking shape. The Iron Curtain had descended around Earth and its immediate solar system, creating a barrier that no alien technology could penetrate. Ships that approached the boundary found their engines shutting down, their weapons offline, their communication systems producing only static. But the barrier was expanding. Captain Thexra of the Andromedan survey ship Star Seeker discovered this firsthand when his vessel suddenly lost power while patrolling what should have been empty space. Engineering report. Thexra's voice crackled through the ship's internal communication system. Sir, we've lost main power. Backup systems are running at minimum levels. I don't understand it. There's nothing wrong with our engines, but they simply won't respond to our commands. Thexra checked his navigation display. They were at least 50 light-years from the edge of human space, far beyond where the Iron Curtain had been detected 6 months ago. This should have been normal Commonwealth territory. Helm, try to reverse course. I'm trying, sir, but the navigation systems are not responding. A new voice came over the ship's communication array. Calm, professional, and unmistakably human. Andromedan vessel Star Seeker, this is Earth Defense Station Alpha. You have entered protected space. Please reverse course and exit the area immediately. Thexra's scales bristled with confusion. Earth Defense? This is Commonwealth territory, over 50 light-years from your solar system. Not anymore, Captain. The boundary has been adjusted. You are now in Earth Alliance space. We strongly advise you to withdraw. What Earth Alliance? Humanity was banished from the Commonwealth. There was a pause before the human voice responded, and Thexra could hear what sounded like amusement. Yes, you banished us from your civilization. You didn't banish us from the galaxy. We've simply started our own civilization. As if to emphasize the point, Thexra's sensors suddenly detected massive structures that had not been there moments before. Space stations the size of small moons materialized around his ship, clearly using some form of advanced cloaking technology. The stations were like nothing in Commonwealth databases, sleek, organic-looking, built with materials that his sensors could not identify. How is this possible? Thexra whispered. Captain, the human voice said gently, your ship's systems will return to normal as soon as you exit Alliance space. We have no desire to harm you, but we will not permit unauthorized entry into our territory. Thexra's ship began moving backward on its own, guided by some external force that left his crew helpless to resist. Within an hour, they had crossed back over the invisible boundary, and suddenly all their systems came back online. Message for the Commonwealth leadership, the human voice added, as the Star Seeker regained control. The Earth Alliance extends diplomatic greetings to all species. However, the terms of our previous relationship no longer apply. Reports of similar encounters began reaching the Commonwealth from across the galaxy. The Earth Alliance, as humanity now called itself, had claimed territory spanning hundreds of star systems. Worlds that had never shown signs of human habitation suddenly displayed advanced defensive installations. Trade routes that had been empty space for centuries now contained human patrol ships. But the most shocking discovery came when alien diplomatic missions tried to make contact with known human colonies only to find them completely transformed. The simple agricultural and mining settlements the Commonwealth remembered had become gleaming centers of advanced technology. Ambassador Kethvar of the Centauri Collective led the first official diplomatic mission to attempt contact with the New Earth Alliance. His ship, the Diplomatic Unity, was granted permission to approach one of the Outer Alliance worlds, a place that had been a struggling human farming colony just 6 months earlier. What Kethvar found defied all explanation. The planet was surrounded by orbital installations that dwarfed anything in Commonwealth space. The surface, visible through transparent atmospheric shields, showed cities of impossible beauty and complexity. Transportation systems moved through the air without any visible means of propulsion. Energy networks pulsed with power that his instruments could not measure. The human who greeted his diplomatic party was Dr. James Harrison, formerly the Director of Human Galactic Relations. Kethvar had known Harrison for decades, had worked with him on dozens of trade agreements and cultural exchanges. But the human who stood before him now seemed different. "Ambassador Kethvar," Harrison said with a warm smile. "Welcome to New Geneva. I apologize for the dramatic changes since your last visit." Kethvar's mind reeled as he tried to process what he was seeing. "Dr. Harrison, this transformation, how is it possible? 6 months ago, this was a simple farming world." Harrison gestured for them to follow him through corridors that seemed to be made of living crystal. "It was never really just a farming world, Ambassador. That was simply what we chose to show you." "I don't understand." They entered a vast chamber with transparent walls that offered a panoramic view of the planet's surface. Cities stretched to the horizon, connected by streams of light that pulsed with constant traffic. In the distance, Kethvar could see massive structures that appeared to be space elevators, reaching up from the surface to orbital platforms. "For 3 centuries," Harrison explained, "humanity participated in the Commonwealth as partners and equals. We shared our knowledge, our resources, our friendship, but we never shared everything." Kethvar's translator unit struggled with the concept Harrison was describing. "You mean you were holding back your true technology?" "Not holding back," Harrison corrected. "More like scaling back. We introduced our advances gradually, allowing other species time to adapt and integrate them into their own societies. We thought that if we helped everyone develop together, we could create a truly cooperative, galactic civilization." The implications hit Kethvar like a physical blow. The FTL engines, the wormhole generators, the medical advances. You were already far beyond those technologies? "Centuries beyond them," Harrison confirmed. "What we shared with the Commonwealth represented the level of technology we had achieved 500 years ago." Kethvar's legs felt weak. He leaned against a nearby support, trying to comprehend what he was hearing. "But why? Why limit yourselves? Why not show us your true capabilities?" Harrison's expression grew sad. "Because we tried that approach once, before with a species that no longer exists. When there's too great a technological gap between civilizations, it doesn't lead to partnership. It leads to dependency, resentment, and eventually conflict. We wanted to avoid that. So you chose to appear less advanced than you really were. We chose to grow together instead of apart. We thought it was working." Harrison paused, looking out at the transformed world around them. "We were wrong." Through the vast windows, Kethvar could see ships launching from the planet's surface, vessels unlike anything in his experience. They moved without visible engines, accelerated to impossible speeds, and disappeared into what looked like tears in space itself. "Dr. Harrison," Kethvar said quietly, "what happens now?" Harrison turned to face him, and for a moment, Kethvar saw something in the human's eyes that made him deeply uneasy. It was not anger or hatred. It was disappointment. "Now," Harrison said, "we stop pretending to be less than we are. The Commonwealth wanted you. 2 years had passed since the vote, and Ambassador Kethvar found himself leading another diplomatic mission to human space. But this time, the circumstances were very different. The Galactic Commonwealth was dying, and everyone knew it. The delegation included representatives from every major species in the Commonwealth, even those who had voted most strongly for humanity's banishment. The Zephyrian Chancellor himself had wanted to come, But his pride would not allow it. Instead, he sent his most trusted advisor, Diplomatic Minister Yethnal. As their ship approached the edge of Earth Alliance space, Kethvar reviewed the reports that had brought them here. The Commonwealth's economy had collapsed completely. Trade networks that had functioned for millennia were in ruins. Dozens of worlds were experiencing critical shortages of food, medicine, and basic supplies. But worse than the economic crisis was what the sociologists were calling the Great Stagnation. Scientific research had ground to a halt. Technological development had stopped. Art, literature, and cultural exchange had withered as species struggled just to maintain their basic civilizations. The younger species, those who had joined, the Commonwealth more recently, were asking uncomfortable questions. Why had progress been so rapid when humans were part of the Alliance? Why had everything seemed to work so smoothly before? Some were even wondering if they had chosen the wrong side. Approaching Alliance boundary, the ship's pilot announced. Sensors detect incoming patrol vessels. Through the viewports, Kethvar could see ships that looked more like works of art than military vessels. They moved with fluid grace, their hulls seeming to shift and change as they approached. No weapons were visible, but somehow that made them more intimidating, not less. Commonwealth diplomatic vessel, this is Alliance patrol ship Harmony, came a voice over their communication system. State your purpose. This is Ambassador Kethvar of the Centauri Collective. We request permission to meet with Earth Alliance. Leadership regarding urgent matters affecting both our civilizations. There was a pause then. Permission granted. You will be escorted to Diplomatic Station 1. Please follow our guidance beacon and do not deviate from the prescribed course. As they followed the patrol ships deeper into Alliance space, Kethvar was amazed by what he saw. The region that had once contained scattered human colonies now hosted an interconnected network of worlds and stations that dwarfed anything the Commonwealth had ever built. Massive ring structures surrounded stars, capturing and redirecting their energy. Planets had been transformed into garden worlds of impossible beauty. Space itself seemed to be under cultivation, with streams of organized matter flowing between worlds like the bloodstream of some vast organism. By the void, whispered Minister Yethnal, his mental voice tight with shock. How long have they been building this? That's what we're here to find out, Kethvar replied, though he suspected the answer would not bring them comfort. Diplomatic Station 1 was itself a marvel that challenged everything Kethvar thought he knew about engineering. The station appeared to be a single, seamless structure the size of a moon, its surface covered in flowing patterns that shifted like living tissue. Ships moved in and out of the station through openings that formed and closed as needed, as if the structure itself was alive. They were greeted in a reception chamber that defied physics. The walls showed a real-time view of the galaxy, but not from any single perspective. Somehow they could see everything, other star systems, nebulae, even what appeared to be other galaxies in the far distance. Dr. James Harrison entered the chamber, but he was not alone. With him came humans that Kethvar did not recognize, people whose bearing and dress suggested they held positions of great authority in the Alliance. Ambassador Kethvar, Minister Yethnal, Harrison said with the same warm smile Kethvar remembered from their previous meeting. Welcome to Diplomatic Station 1. I understand you have urgent matters to discuss. Kethvar struggled to find the right words. The situation was so desperate that pride had to be set aside. Dr. Harrison, the Commonwealth we are facing a crisis. Our economic systems have collapsed, our technology is failing, our people are suffering. I'm sorry to hear that, Harrison replied, and his tone suggested he genuinely meant it. How can the Earth Alliance help? Minister Yethnal stepped forward, his forearms trembling with barely controlled emotion. You know how you can help. Restore the systems you sabotaged. Return the technology you stole. End this destructive isolation. The humans in the room exchanged glances, and Kethvar noticed something that made his stomach twist with unease. They were not angry at the minister's accusations. They looked amused. Minister, Harrison said gently, we didn't sabotage anything. We simply stopped sharing our contributions. And we didn't steal any technology. We took back what was ours, to begin with. Impossible, Yethanal protested. Those systems were developed by Commonwealth scientists over centuries of research. One of the other humans spoke for the first time. A woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold depths of knowledge that made Kethvar uncomfortable. Minister, let me ask you a question. In the past 300 years, how many breakthrough discoveries has your species made independently? How many new technologies have you developed without human involvement? Yethanal's arms gestured dismissively. We have made countless advances. Our understanding of quantum mechanics, our fusion power systems, our medical technologies, all of which were developed in partnership with human researchers, the woman interrupted. All of which incorporated human theoretical frameworks that you assumed were joint discoveries. She gestured, and the chamber's walls shifted to display a complex timeline. Colors flowed across the surface, showing the development of various technologies over the past few centuries. The blue represents human contributions, she explained. The other colors represent various Commonwealth species. As you can see, the vast majority of significant advances were either primarily human in origin or dependent on human theoretical foundations. Kethvar stared at the display in growing horror. The pattern was unmistakable. For 3 centuries, human innovation had been the driving force behind almost every major technological advance in the Commonwealth. Other species had contributed, but they had been building on human foundations. But how? He whispered. How were you so far ahead? Harrison's expression grew thoughtful. Ambassador, let me show you something that might help you understand. The walls of the chamber changed again, now showing images of Earth as it had existed thousands of years ago. Primitive humans hunting with stone tools, early civilizations building with bronze and iron, wars, conflicts, disasters, and recoveries. Every species develops differently, Harrison explained. Some focus on philosophy and art. Others excel at social organization or biological sciences. Humanity's particular talent seems to be adaptation. The images shifted to show human history accelerating, the development of agriculture, writing, mathematics, science, industry, but the timeline was moving faster than normal historical records suggested. We faced extinction dozens of times in our early history, Harrison continued. Ice ages, supervolcanic, eruptions, asteroid impacts, plagues, wars. Each time we survived by learning to do things differently, by innovating faster than our problems could destroy us. Kethvar began to understand. You evolved under pressure. Constant pressure, Harrison confirmed. While other species developed in relatively stable environments, we learned to see every challenge as a puzzle to be solved. We became very good at solving puzzles quickly. Minister Yethanal's mental voice carried a note of desperation. Then, help us solve our current puzzle. Restore the partnership, share your technology. Under what terms? Asked the silver-haired woman. Would we be welcomed back into the Commonwealth as equals? Would our contributions be recognized and respected? Or would we simply be expected to fix your problems and then wait for the next vote to banish us when you decide we're too dangerous? Again? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Kethvar knew the answer, and he suspected everyone else in the room did too. The Commonwealth had made its choice based on fear and resentment. Those feelings had not changed. They had only grown stronger as the crisis deepened. Dr. Harrison, Kethvar said slowly, what would it take for our civilizations to coexist? Peacefully? Harrison's smile faded, replaced by an expression of profound sadness. Ambassador, that ship sailed 2 years ago when your people chose fear over friendship. We offered partnership. You chose banishment. We accepted your decision. But surely there must be some way. There is, Harrison said quietly. Join us. The words echoed in the vast chamber. Kethvar felt his breathing become shallow as the implications sank in. Join you? The Earth Alliance is open to any species that wishes to participate in genuine cooperation. No hierarchies, no votes to exclude members, no fear-based decisions. We share our knowledge freely with those who share theirs freely with us. Minister Yethnal's forearms quivered with outrage. You want us to abandon the Commonwealth? To destroy thousands of years of galactic civilization? No, Harrison replied. We want you to choose what kind of civilization you want to be. 3 years after the vote, Chancellor Zeftar stood alone in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Senate. The massive chamber that had once held representatives from 847 species now echoed with emptiness. Only 312 species remained in the Commonwealth, and even among those, attendance at Senate sessions had dropped to barely a quarter of the membership. The Chancellor's forearms moved restlessly as he reviewed the latest reports. Each day brought news of another species requesting to join the Earth Alliance. Yesterday, it had been the Rigelian Confederacy, one of the founding members of the Commonwealth. Today, the Altarian Collective had announced their intention to explore alternative partnerships. The Commonwealth was dying, and everyone knew it. The chamber doors opened with a soft whisper, and Kethvar entered. The Centauri ambassador moved slowly, his usual confident bearing replaced by visible exhaustion. He had spent the past 6 months traveling between worlds, trying to hold the Commonwealth together through desperate diplomacy. Report, the Chancellor commanded, though his mental voice lacked its former authority. Kethvar activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. The image made the Chancellor's arms tremble with barely controlled emotion. The Earth Alliance now controlled nearly 70% of inhabited space. Their territory formed a vast, interconnected network of thriving worlds, while the Commonwealth's remaining holdings were scattered islands of struggling civilizations. The Vegan Republic has officially withdrawn from the Commonwealth, Kethvar reported. They cite fundamental differences in vision for galactic civilization as their reason. That brings our total membership down to 298 species. And the others? 14 more species have submitted formal requests to join the alliance. My sources suggest that at least 30 others are considering it. Kethvar paused, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. Chancellor, we need to face reality. The Commonwealth as we knew it is finished. The Chancellor's mental roar of frustration echoed through the empty chamber. This is madness. We ruled the galaxy for millennia, before humans ever left their primitive world. How can they simply abandon thousands of years of civilization? Kethvar displayed another image, a comparison of economic and technological development between Alliance and Commonwealth space over the past 3 years. The differences were staggering. Alliance worlds showed exponential growth in every measurable category, while Commonwealth territories showed steady decline. Because it works, Kethvar said simply. The Alliance model is producing results that our species have never seen before. Scientific advancement, economic prosperity, cultural renaissance. Species that join the Alliance don't just survive, they flourish. Through the chamber's vast windows, both leaders could see the evidence of their civilization's decline. The orbital platforms that had once buzzed with constant traffic were now largely empty. The great trade routes that had connected Commonwealth worlds had become dangerous passages traveled only by desperate merchants. What of our military response? The Chancellor asked. Surely we can force these defectors to return. Kethvar's expression grew even more grim. Chancellor, we tried. The fleet action at Proxima Centauri was educational. 3 weeks earlier, the Commonwealth had sent a battle fleet to prevent the Proximan system from defecting to the Alliance. It had been intended as a show of force, a demonstration that the old order still had teeth. The results had been humiliating beyond description. The Commonwealth fleet had arrived to find the system defended by a single human vessel, a ship no larger than a standard frigate. When Admiral Vortex had demanded the system's surrender, the human captain had politely refused and suggested that the Commonwealth fleet withdraw. What happened next had redefined everyone's understanding of military technology. The human ship had not fired a single weapon. Instead, it had somehow caused every Commonwealth vessel in the fleet to lose power simultaneously. Engines failed. Weapons went offline. Life support systems dropped to emergency levels. The entire battle group had found itself drifting helplessly in space. Then the human captain had offered assistance. Commonwealth Fleet, this is Captain Maria Santos of the Alliance vessel, Peaceful Resolution. We show that you're experiencing technical difficulties. Would you like us to provide emergency support while you effect repairs? The humiliation had been complete. The Commonwealth's most advanced warships had been rendered helpless by a single Alliance vessel that seemed to treat the encounter as a minor inconvenience. The fleet had been forced to accept human assistance just to return home safely. Our military advisors, Kethover continued, have concluded that direct confrontation with the Alliance would be inadvisable. The Chancellor's arms drooped in defeat. Then what do you suggest? Before Kethvar could respond, the chamber's communication system activated. A familiar voice filled the empty hall. Dr. James Harrison, speaking from somewhere in Alliance. Space. Chancellor Zeftar, Ambassador Kethvar, I hope you'll forgive the intrusion. I thought it might be time for us to speak directly. The Chancellor's mental voice carried a mixture of anger and resignation. Dr. Harrison, have you come to gloat over our civilization's collapse? Not at all, Harrison replied, his tone genuinely sympathetic. I've come to make you an offer. A holographic image materialized in the center of the chamber, Harrison himself, appearing as if he were standing just a few meters away. But the technology required to project such a clear image across hundreds of light years was beyond anything in Commonwealth databases. The Alliance extends an invitation to the remaining Commonwealth species, Harrison said. You are welcome to join us as full partners in building a new kind of galactic civilization. The Chancellor's forearms gestured dismissively. Under what terms? As conquered territories? As junior partners in your human empire? Harrison's expression showed genuine surprise. Empire? Chancellor, I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding. The Alliance isn't a human empire. It's a cooperative federation where every species contributes according to their strengths and benefits according to their needs, with humans in control. With humans as founding members, certainly, but not in control. Harrison gestured, and the hologram expanded to show scenes from Alliance worlds. Let me show you how the Alliance actually functions. The images revealed something that challenged everything the Commonwealth leadership thought they knew about the Alliance. Yes, human technology was clearly the most advanced, and human innovations drove much of the Alliance's progress, but the actual governance structure was remarkably egalitarian. Alliance councils included representatives from every member species. Decision-making was collaborative, with each species contributing their unique perspectives and expertise. Humans provided technological foundations, but Centaurians led diplomatic initiatives. Haltarians managed cultural exchange programs. Rigelians oversaw trade networks. The Alliance doesn't exist to serve humanity, Harrison explained. It exists to serve the dream that humanity has always held. A galaxy where every species can reach their full potential through cooperation rather than competition. Kethovar found himself leaning forward, studying the details of what Harrison was showing them. But surely humans hold ultimate authority. Your technology is so far advanced. Technology is just a tool, Harrison replied. What matters is how you use it. We've learned from our past mistakes. We tried ruling through superior force once thousands of years ago on our own world. It didn't work well. Cooperation produces better results for everyone. The Chancellor's mental voice carried a note of suspicion. And what of those species that choose not to join your alliance? Will you simply allow the Commonwealth to continue existing? Harrison's expression grew thoughtful. Of course, the galaxy is large enough for multiple civilizations. The Commonwealth is welcome to continue following its own path. Even though you could easily conquer us? Especially because we could easily conquer you, Harrison said quietly. True strength isn't about the ability to dominate others. It's about the choice not to use that ability when you have it. As if to emphasize his point, the chamber's displays suddenly activated without any input from the Commonwealth leaders. New images appeared, views of space around the Commonwealth's core worlds. The Chancellor's forearms began to shake as he realized what he was seeing. Massive structures hung in space near every major Commonwealth world, structures that had not been there yesterday. They were clearly artificial, clearly of Alliance origin, and clearly powerful enough to threaten entire star systems. But they were not attacking. They were simply there. "This is a demonstration," Harrison said calmly. "Not of our intent to harm you, but of our ability to protect those who choose to join us. The Commonwealth is free to continue existing, but you should understand that any aggressive action against Alliance members will not be tolerated." The message was clear. The Alliance had not conquered the Commonwealth because they chose not to, not because they couldn't. Kethfar stared at the images in growing understanding. "You've been protecting us. All this time while our civilization was collapsing, you've been preventing outside threats from taking advantage of our weakness. The Devourers from the Galactic Rim tried to expand into your territory last month," Harrison confirmed. "They encountered unexpected resistance